2 new co-hosts, 1 new format. This is going to be amazing. Don't miss this association chat where we talk with Peggy Hoffman about the V word and getting rid of it. We're talking about engagement, not volunteers. This is about engagement, and you don't want to miss it. Welcome to Association Chat, your weekly online discussion for the association community where we warm ourselves by the virtual fire with the topics of the day, welcoming thought leaders and trailblazers alike to join up in this online home for the community. I'm the host and producer of Association Chat, Kiki L'Italienne, and I'm here with my fabulous co-hosts, Tamela Blalock, who is already on here, welcoming everyone onto the show, looking fantastic. And we're hoping, dealing with the sauna that is her office today. And with Dr. Nabil El-Ghoroury, he is also in the control room handling your questions online. And today we're talking about banning the V word. That's volunteer for those of you who are curious. We're talking with Peggy Hoffman, who is going to tell us how we should change how we think about, how we talk about, how we engage our members in volunteering. But before we bring her on, and before we get into all of that beautiful, beautiful stuff, let's talk about some news in the association space with my wonderful new co-host, Tamela and Nabil. Dr. Nabil, do you want to kick us off with what caught your attention for this episode?
Yes, I'm happy to. So I'm always interested in technology. And on Friday's association news newsletter, there was an article about live tracking emotions and its potential impact on events. So Facebook is working on emotion tracking techniques. And it's not available yet for meeting planners, but how could it influence your meetings? You know, getting live feedback, you know, about how your attendees are feeling, you know, in a session, in line, at the exhibit hall. I think there's lots of places that we could use this technology to enhance our meetings.
I think so too. And I've been noticing that even when I go through, when I went to renew my passport fairly recently, and then when I was going through the airport, I've been noticing the little machines where it's like, you know, how did we do today? And you're supposed to get immediate feedback. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. With the different faces. And, you know, I think little things like that where you're checking in is fascinating stuff.
I saw one of those in a bathroom at an airport.
I don't know if I want to know.
I don't want to touch that. But I've seen that also at Dulles Airport at the transportation, the subway that gets you to terminals C or D. I've seen that too, and I like hitting it there. I always mark happy if I've had no problems, you know, check. Yeah. So I'm really curious to see how this will play out.
Yeah, well, if you really think about it, a bathroom's a place where you probably get the most honest answer about someone's service experience. So while unconventional place, I thought it's a place that needs nuance.
I mean, I was worried that it might be like, here's the feedback on the bathroom itself, which I'm like, well, I don't all kind of relative, you know, depends how much stall. I don't know. It's awful. Oh my gosh. So that was really interesting. How about you, Tamela? What did you pick up that was really interesting happening in the association space or related to it?
I'd say my piece of news is related to the association space from the global universe of the recent elections in Britain. So, you know, Theresa May is going for re-election, and also she wanted to leverage that opportunity to get her party, the Conservative Party, the majority of the House in their version of Congress. And what was unanticipated is that the youth vote just skyrocketed to a level that was very much not expected. And most of the youth who were, and by youth, they are identifying as under 40. However, there's also a very significant block between 18 and 25, that about 60,000 of them registered. And most of them were motivated by the result of Brexit. So during the Brexit election, which was only 2015, so not too long ago, only about 43% of the youth vote was engaged in that election. And so you fast forwarded to last week in 2017, you have 72% of the youth vote that turned out. So almost enough to change the outcome of the presidential election, because the person running for what would be considered like their version of their progressive party, essentially like a British Bernie Sanders for all intents and purposes, came very close to becoming prime minister. However, the change of essentially their version of Congress, the House of Commons, it's very diverse, but more importantly, the Conservative Party that was really pro-Brexit in a particular way does not have their majority. So it's interesting to see what happens with Brexit, if there is a Brexit, and all of that's become the youth vote, to bring that back around to the association community. Because I can go down that rabbit hole for hours, and not time for that.
I can join you. Yeah.
Is youth engagement. And when we look at millennial generations, we're not a weird species of humans. We were raised by someone in this country. And it's really finding what, just like any other voter block or any of your member block, finding what connects and engages and excites that community. And you'll see tremendous engagement. I mean, to see any demographic shift their voting behavior north of 30% in 18 months, is extreme. It's something worth noting. So it really just takes something to excite. And it's more important to make sure that what excites that block is a positive enforcement or a positive incident. For them, Brexit, they perceive to be negative, but a lot of positive incidents can also excite a voting bloc as well. I mean, our previous president, Barack Obama, he excited a younger voter bloc as well. So, so you want to make sure that what you're doing is stimulating in a positive way the younger bloc, particularly as it relates to volunteer engagement.
So in an association context, we're thinking about how can we excite our members or potential members so that they'll join, stay involved, become really a part of our vibrant field.
Right. Absolutely. So a lot of things we may look at as apathy, where a certain group is not interested in voting or a certain group isn't interested in volunteering or even joining an association. It's really what we're learning is that we still have that challenge to make that connection and to excite whatever that target demographic is as far as relevancy and having them see the ROI. So that's really an interesting lesson that can be learned. And also, most importantly, the good news is that change can happen very quickly.
Right. And that's so interesting to me. And I think that it will be so fascinating to see actually as our country is moving along, what's going to happen with our next election, presidential election. We'll see what happens, and when we actually get to that point.
And speaking of elections, for those of us who live in the state of Virginia, our governor primary is today, so you still have plenty of time to vote because all elections matter, every single one.
I love it. Okay, so everyone, before I move on, mine. What am I going to share? Okay, so my news. I got the lovely Associations Now magazine in the mail. And I always love getting this. It's so funny because it's like I go to it before I go to any of my other magazines to see who's talking about what. And the thing that really stuck out for me is actually this article. There's a lot of good stuff that really drew me in for this one. But this article about Chef Jeff Henderson, he's going to be speaking at ASAE Annual. And he has a really interesting past. It goes into talking about his personal rebrand and how he had to, look past who he was in the past and sort of decide on who he was going to be moving forward. And what really grabbed me about that, and we were talking about this right before the show today, was so many association professionals wear so many hats. We're forced into the role of, having to know a lot or a little about a lot and trying to know as much as we can, that there can be this sort of feeling of this imposter syndrome where we feel like we really aren't, where we need to be in order to represent that area well or represent ourselves well. And there's a lot to unpack around that. And I think we're going to dig into that more in the future. But if any of you haven't opened up your issues of Associations Now, you should probably check it out. This one in particular, I think that's sort of the connection I was drawing to the association space and thinking, okay, how can we move forward more confidently in believing in our ability to figure things out and believing in our ability to be the intelligent human beings that we are, who learn and grow and can figure out the things we need to when the time comes. So absolutely fascinating stuff. But hey, this is a shorter format, very different format of previous shows. I don't want to take too much time on all of that. I want to move us into talking a little bit more with about our topic of the day. Before we do that, I have to say a quick word about Fontiva and Association Studios. These are our sponsors, and Association Chat would like to thank our sponsors for their continued support. Yay! Yay. Please visit associationchat.com to find out more about these wonderful companies, or click on the button. If you're watching live on Crowdcast, you can actually click on the button to check out our sponsors and find out more there. Fontiva and Association Studios. We're very happy that you're sponsoring Association Chat. So today, let's bring our lady in waiting, our special guest, Peggy Hoffman. Yes. Hi, Peggy. Hello.
Hi. Great.
Yes. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So we're super excited to have Peggy Hoffman on. She is the president of Mariner Management and Marketing, and she's the resident expert on communication, marketing, and building community. And today we're talking about banning the V word. Welcome to Association Chat, Peggy Hoffman.
Thank you. I am so excited to be here. And not only that, but to be here on the new format. Like, this is the best ever. And the tie-in to engaging youth with the vote is like awesome. So great. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely perfect. So now I have known you. I've been fortunate to know you for years. We worked together first on ASAE's Component Relations Section Council. We worked on the decision to volunteer together. But can you help me understand why we should ban the V word? What are we getting wrong about volunteers, Peggy? Help me understand.
Okay. So there's really three reasons we got to ban this word, and we got to ban it today. The first is that it narrows our conversation. It narrows our viewpoint. What happens when we think volunteer is we think of all the people that have titles, or they have significant responsibilities on big events or big activities that we do. And that's our world of volunteer, because volunteer means I'm the title. I've bought into you, and I'm giving you a significant period of time. So it narrows our viewpoint, because really, if you look at the new volunteer, it's not about the big jobs anymore. It's really about those ever important, outcome-based, get it done, get it out kinds of jobs. And so it narrows that. I think the second thing it does is it narrows our messaging, everything around the volunteering. So it narrows how we talk about it. But here's the big one. It narrows how we recognize activity, because we tend to recognize the volunteers who have given us significant time, not necessarily significant outcomes. So it's narrowing our focus. It's narrowing our messaging, which means that we're leaving people behind. But the third, and I think in some ways, maybe the most important one, is it has a negative context to the people that we're trying to engage. So what happens is we say volunteer, and they go, I don't have time. That's the number one reason why people don't volunteer, is they don't have time. And yet, and Kiki, you might remember this from the 2008 survey, 2/3 of the folks that weren't engaged said to us in that original survey, they were looking for or would like to connect their job to some kind, or their profession to some kind of volunteer activity. In the 2016 survey that we just finished for the ASAE Foundation, that number was 58% of over 25,000 folks logging in were saying that they weren't as involved, or they were not quite involved where they wanted to be. So we are leaving people behind by narrowing ourselves. So I say, ban the V word. Let's talk about volunteering simply as a continuum of engagement. Let's talk about it engaging. Let's talk about getting involved. Let's talk about it as a way that I plug into an organization. And not too long ago, I actually around about the time of the original ASAE research, the Oncology Nursing Society came out with the way that they were going to position volunteering. And they very beautifully said, get involved. They didn't say volunteer, they said get involved. And so that's really what volunteering is about. And so when I go around and talk with volunteers and talk with staff and talk with associations, I say, shift it, change it. Don't turn them off. Don't narrow.
I like it. I like it a lot. I like the approach of saying get involved. I think a lot of us, recently there was a very active discussion on the ASAE Collaborate Forum.
Oh yeah.
And very interesting. And it was talking about engagement, how engaged in this case people were feeling with their own association with ASAE.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting thing because there was some pushback from some people saying, hey, you're as involved as you get, right? You're as involved as you get. And on the other side of it, they were saying, I used to be more involved. I'm not feeling the love. You're not speaking to me the same way. There aren't the same opportunities as there were. So, I mean, it's really interesting. It's like this dance that I feel, associations do with the way that they work with their members and getting them more involved.
And let me throw out there, one of the interesting things for National Volunteer Week, and I love ASAEs, but I'm going to use them as an example because I'm a volunteer and this is what happened. I saw all these pictures of what volunteers got from ASAE. It was a letter with a little bookmark. And I saw all that and I went, well, I'm given a heck of a lot of time and I didn't get it, but I knew why I didn't get it because I'm not on a section council anymore. When I was the section council, I used to get those. So I did a little, maybe not so nice thing, but I tweeted out, oh, that looks great. I'm sure mine is in the mail.
I saw that. I saw that.
So the beautiful thing is, to their credit, I had an immediate reply and I got a beautiful mailer. That's not, I don't want to say it's their fault. Because here's the thing, if we think of volunteers in terms of the positions, then we're going to track the positions and we're going to pull that list. We're not going to pull the list of all the other folks. So one of the things that really is important for us, if we really want to, those collaborate discussions as an example, Kiki, if we really want to get people engaged, we have to recognize the little, the medium, and the large engagements. One of the things I love about some of the software applications that are out there now, and something like a Higher Logic or any of these other ones where you can track the small volunteering. Those kind of questions that came up on Collaborate will happen less frequently. Although I'll tell you what, I thought that having that good dialogue on Collaborate was important. But it goes back to ban the V word, guys. Ban the V word.
Yeah, the V word. Although I'll say I'm going to bring in some comments that we're seeing over here. And Adrian says, I don't mind the V word. I mind the way that some organizations set up what volunteers need to do. Which is, speaking to your point earlier about let's talk about the different types of engagements and what that V word, what that volunteering looks like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I'm feeling very conscious of whether I'm saying volunteer, what it looks like to be engaged, what it looks like to be involved.
Well, I mean, and it's really interesting. I mean, part of the reason why we do that is because we haven't sat down and said, what are all the ways that people can or ought to get engaged? And the interesting thing is, I just sat with a wonderful group yesterday. We were doing staff training for how to be more effective volunteer liaisons, and it was a lot of fun. We had some great dialogue. One of the interesting things is that oftentimes people will go back to the same person over and over again, the subject matter expert that the SME that to help you out here and there. So one of the things that's really cool is if you sit down with your staff and say, what are all the ways that you're bringing somebody in for ad hoc things? You can create a list of those ad hoc things. And pretty soon you can create a much broader view of volunteering and engagement in room. And so even if you go ahead and call it the V word, that's fine. but don't let it narrow. So, burst it open, allow yourself to find all those opportunities to get involved, engaged. And after all, remember, and Kiki, you probably remember this, because we sat there and we poured over all those research things when we helped write all of the end pieces for all those chapters for the original ASAE volunteer survey. But 60% of the people who talked about their preference said their preference was an ad hoc position. As I said to the group yesterday, I said, they're not saying they all want one and done. Don't oversimplify it. What they're simply saying is, I want to do something where you say to me, we need to get this done. Here's a period of time we're going to work it in. This is what done looks like. Let's jump in and get it done. So it could be a day, it could be a week, it could be a month, it could be a 6-month gig. The point is, it's ad hoc, because I'm not sitting in meetings and I'm not tying myself down for a year or 2-year commitment.
Right. And that's exactly what people are scared of, though. You know what that's like when you get sucked into something and you're like, hey, wait, I thought that this was me coming in to, do some sort of ideation session with you once. And now all of a sudden you've got it figured out the next time we're getting together and the next time. And this has become this huge project. And we're also protective of our time now.
Yes.
I can imagine some staff thinking, if you do think about engagement in these many ways, that means trying to find those many people, when sometimes it's hard to find just for the limited number of spots that you have. Right. And that's actually the segue to my question, which is, how can an organization manage creating more opportunities for younger members, Gen X and millennial members who want to become involved, while balancing with more senior members who may have been longtime volunteers and perhaps reluctant to give up their spots?
Right. So there's a couple of thoughts here that I think that we can work with. First and foremost is that when we say that the millennials are, and to a certain degree the Xers are not getting engaged, it's actually a misnomer. They're getting engaged the same way that boomers did. It's about the career and life cycle, not about the age. And part of what you have to understand is that if you're a millennial, you have less control over your time, a lot less control over your time. And here's the thing, is that if you have less control of your time, then opting in for a term position is going to be a problem. So if you want to, and I love the comments you just gave on the screen. Yay, make your point, Jenna.
I know, I love that.
Anyway,
thanks, Adrienne.
And actually, you are younger, right? Those of you that are extras. But anyway, the point is that they can do virtual, they can do short time, they can do of the moment, they can do all of those things where technology is the enabler and the connector. So if you want to engage the next generation, you've got to create meaningful opportunities for them that can be engaged using technology. Now, I'm not saying, because I don't believe for a minute that Xers and millennials don't want to get together face to face. I'm so tired of hearing that those generations, they just want to do everything virtually. No, come on, we're all social beings, right?
Yeah.
But I am saying that the volunteering muscle gets used and built by adding those virtual opportunities. So as you're building those, you can take those senior folks that have this position, let's say the folks that are sitting around a major committee, a standing committee. You can say that that's a more senior place, but you get them thinking strategically, and you get some of the really cool operational stuff that can be moved off to the quote unquote subcommittee, but let's call them teams, right? Which is the younger cohort. So you're making space actually for all of your generations. What you're not doing is you're not saying that this committee does all of the work of the charge of this committee. So you're broadening it. So all of a sudden, let's just say you've got 5 committees and each committee has 10 people. So that's 50 people, right? I'm saying to you that the work is going to be much more effective if it's not those 50 individuals, but the 150 that are gathered around those five work areas or topic areas. So you actually can find the space. And then one last thing I want to say is that for some reason, we have gotten into this because we get into this generational thing. And yes, there are generational differences. I admit that. Cool beans. That's great. I happen to be a boomer. Okay. I'm a young boomer. Okay? I actually saw a generational scale that said there's boomer ones and boomers twos, and I'm a boomer two. Okay.
Boomer two.
I'm a boomer too, right?
That's
but
good.
Here's the deal. I'm not signing up for any long-term positions either. I want, and the work that I've been doing, like for example with ASAE and some other organizations, is I really want to get in and get something done and pull it out. So here's the reality is, all of us are getting a little bit edgy over this notion that we've got to do a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year term. And so we can bridge that gap by still allowing that position, by bringing in the next generation, and also then by beginning, as we, instead of building new committees, build new work groups.
Yes.
And I want to shout out because someone just put that one of the things they talk about is calling them experts.
Yes.
Yes.
You're right. It's recognizing that. And matter of fact, this group that I was working with, the staff, they don't refer to their members as volunteers. They refer to them as their contributors.
Wow.
Ooh, that's even better.
Yeah.
I do think there's power in words. I think that the words we choose to use definitely have an impact. And no matter, in where we are or what it is that we're dealing with. And I think that there is something to that, where moving from calling them just volunteers, I mean, there's something noble in that word. However, volunteer could mean anything. I think calling somebody, if I were called an expert because I'm doing some work and showing my expertise, that definitely would hit a different note than using the word volunteer. So
it definitely does. And going back to words matter, and for Millennial Engagements, I guess I will be the resident millennial today. I have the pleasure to serve on a board of directors, and two things about it came from resonate a lot with the research that you've done, Peggy, on volunteer engagement. One, I did plan to join that board of directors at some point. I thought that, one, given the history of the board and the culture of the board, it seemed they didn't want to engage with people until they reached a certain age and point in their career, which I felt that I hadn't reached yet. And the second was someone asked me. So an active member of the board of directors said, not so much asked as said, I want to nominate you to join the board. If I nominate you, will you accept and complete the application? Which goes, and it was successful. Yay, I'm on the board. Actually just got back from that board meeting. And what I like about that, is terms of words matter, is that my role on that board is to be their disruptor in chief. And for those of you who have yet to get to know me better, that could not describe me.
So I love that so much because, and Peggy, are you not thinking to yourself, the power of the direct ask? I mean, that's what but it's like being able to train your brain to sort of look for not just your own opportunities, but where there are opportunities for other people, like where are those opportunities for others? And the power of the direct ask is just, well, statistics back it up. I mean, it's powerful. That's what gets people like Tamela, on the board. So,
and what's really interesting in the 2008 research, it was very clear to us that the direct ask was the number one. In the 2016 research that we completed, guess what?
What?
Still number one.
Number one.
And every research is there. So what's really neat, and I don't want to again completely promote a technology, but one of the cool things I saw on the Higher Logic platform was if the volunteer op-ed listed isn't for you, you can send it to someone else. You can refer someone else on it.
I like that
because it really is about the ask. One additional thing, the Millennial Impact Report has done a fair amount of research. Obviously, every year they come out with another aspect that they've looked at. The 2014 was the one where they really looked at how this cohort was engaging with nonprofit organizations, and a lot of clarity around the idea that there wants to be engagement. So I think that, again, it's the direct ask, and it's creating new and better opportunities.
Yes. So I have to say, You guys, this is a new format. It's a shorter show. Peggy, thank you.
Can I do one more plug?
You can.
Okay.
You can.
I just want to make the point that the Association Foundation research that we did was about mutually beneficial volunteering systems. This is the first research that looked at volunteering programs in associations from the staff perspective and the volunteer perspective. And everything we've talked about is hinted to the fact that this is truly about HR. It's about honoring, it's about respecting, it's about creating accessibility for volunteers to be engaged, just like it's about getting your staff engaged. So it really is an HR issue, and the report goes into a little bit more, but I just want to make that point that it was about mutually beneficial, because there's got to be a benefit for the organization and there's got to be a benefit for the volunteer, and we proved that there is on both sides. So that's my plug.
I love it. I love it. So if people want to find out more information about you or get in contact with you, Peggy, what should they do? Where should they go?
So you can check me out at marinermanagement.com. And you can also, of course, follow me on Twitter at Peggy Hoffman, or just give me a holler, ladies. 301-725-2508. I always like to say that sometimes you just got to pick up the phone and call.
I love it.
I love it.
And there's someone watching right now who says, Peggy, I am your volunteer. And as a mother of 2 little ones, I love the ad hoc opportunity. Yes. I am your volunteer. So thank you, Peggy, for joining us on Association Chat this week. I have to say, you guys, what are you thinking of this new format? What are you thinking of the show right now? And Tamela and Nabil, what did you guys think about Peggy and this discussion on volunteerism? Not the V word, actually engagement. Let's go there.
Engagement.
Let's go there.
Engagement.
What did you think about that?
Well, I am a data nerd. So any conversation expert that starts out with data and doing research and basing recommendations on hard data and facts, I'm already in love. So thanks for all the work that she's doing, and that she's continuously has been engaged in our industry, both as a professional and as an engaged expert. So.
Oh, yes, absolutely. What did you think, Nabil?
I like the idea of the micro engagements and thinking about opportunities at different time intervals. I just got a request from an organization to do a 4-hour volunteer activity, and I was directly asked, and it's incredibly flattering to be asked. Yeah. So I can see why our members really like that method. And what it means is we need to be more proactive. We need to be using our data analytics and finding members who want to be more involved.
So I feel challenged. I think that we, it was such a great news item to bring up, Tamela, going into this conversation, because it's kind of been playing in the back of my head as we were talking with Peggy. And I'm thinking, okay, so yes, the direct ask, and yes, we've got to think about the words we use, the vocabulary we use, how they're feeling about these opportunities, and then trying to evaluate and that engagement piece, like hack it so that it is providing value for both sides. Yes. So that is something. So everyone, if you're watching live on Crowdcast, we do have some poll questions that you can fill out. This is just some questions about the format and what you thought about the show. And I have to say, I think that this is phenomenal. Tamela, Nabil, I am so excited that you guys are on here and rocking this with me, and I can't wait for more to come.
Well, it starts with you, Kiki. Thank you for the ask.
Yes,
oh my gosh.
Thank you.
Yeah, the direct ask.
We are thrilled to be here.
Please. Until next time, everyone, keep asking questions to learn every day. As Joseph Campbell once said, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. Have a great week, everyone.